The war had gone on for too long. 12 years of fighting against the Dominion had pushed humanity to the edge. Earth's colonies fell one by one as the alien fleet moved through space like a plague of locusts. Hope was a luxury few could afford anymore. Commander Jack Reynolds knew this better than most. He stood at the edge of a cliff on Titan IX, a small mining colony at the outer rim of human space. The purple sky reflected in his tired eyes as he watched the last transport ship of the day disappear into the clouds. Jack had been here for 3 years now, ever since the military had kicked him out. Dishonorable discharge was the official term they used. Dangerous innovations was what they really meant. His small cabin sat alone on the hilltop, away from the miners and their families. Just how he liked it. The only company he kept was the bottle of whiskey on his table and the memories he couldn't shake. Jack ran a hand through his graying hair and turned to go inside when he noticed a ship breaking through the clouds. It wasn't a mining vessel. Well, that's not good, he muttered to himself. The sleek military transport landed about 50 meters from his cabin. Jack didn't reach for a weapon. If they wanted him dead, he would be all ready. The ship's door opened, and out stepped a figure Jack hadn't seen in years. Admiral Miller, with his perfect uniform and stern face, looked out of place on the dusty planet. "Reynolds," Miller called out, not bothering with formalities. "You look terrible." "That's funny," Jack replied, "because you look exactly the same. Still the perfect soldier." Miller didn't smile. "May I come in?" Jack shrugged and led the way into his simple cabin. He didn't offer the Admiral a drink or a seat. "I'll get straight to the point," Miller said, standing stiffly in the middle of the room. "We're losing the war. Tell me something I don't know. The Dominion has new ships. Faster, stronger. They've pushed us back to the inner colonies. Mars fell last month." Jack felt a twist in his gut. Mars was where he had grown up. "So what? You came all this way to give me bad news. I get enough of that from the mining reports." Miller took a deep breath. "I'm here to offer you a command." Jack laughed, a sharp and bitter sound. "You kicked me out, remember? Said my ideas would get people killed. Said I was unstable. Things have changed." "Have they?" Jack asked. "Or are you just desperate?" Miller pulled out a small device and placed it on the table. A hologram appeared between them, showing a ship unlike any in the fleet. Jack's heart skipped a beat. He knew that ship. He had designed it. "The CSS Phoenix," Jack whispered. "Yes," Miller confirmed. "Your ship." "That's impossible. The Phoenix was scrapped. I saw the reports." Miller's face remained unreadable. "Officially, yes. The Phoenix doesn't exist. It never did." Jack stared at the hologram, at the sleek lines and unique configuration. It was exactly as he had designed it, but with some modifications he didn't recognize. Someone finished it, Jack realized, against orders. "We don't know who," Miller admitted. 3 months ago, it just appeared in a military dock. Fully built, systems online. The records showed nothing. It's like a ghost. Jack circled the hologram, studying the ship from all angles. The Phoenix had been his life's work, a revolutionary design with advanced stealth technology and adaptive systems that could learn from each engagement. The military had shut it down, calling it too unpredictable, too dangerous. "You want me to command a ghost ship," Jack said flatly. "I want you to command your ship," Miller corrected. "No one understands it like you do." Jack turned away, looking out the small window at the purple sky. "Why would I help you? You took everything from me. Because if we lose this war, there won't be anything left for any of us." Miller's voice softened slightly. "And because I know you, Reynolds. You didn't design the Phoenix to sit in a scrapyard." Jack was quiet for a long moment. The Phoenix had been more than a project to him. It represented everything he believed about warfare. That adaptability would always triumph over brute force. That sometimes you had to break the rules to survive. "Who else knows about this?" Jack finally asked. "Just a handful of top brass. Officially, the Phoenix doesn't exist, and neither will your mission. If you're caught, we'll deny everything." Jack laughed again, but this time without the bitterness. "So I'm expendable." "We're all expendable in this war," Miller replied. "But with the Phoenix, you might actually make a difference." Jack stared at the hologram for another long moment. Then he looked at the small cabin that had been his prison for 3 years. What did he have to lose? "I'll need to pick my own crew," he said. Miller nodded, within reason. "No," Jack shook his head firmly. "My ship, my crew. No compromises." The admiral and the disgraced commander locked eyes in a silent battle of wills. Finally, Miller nodded again. "Fine. But I want results, Reynolds." "You'll get them." Jack looked back at the hologram, a spark returning to his eyes that had been missing for years. "When do we leave?" "Now," Miller said. "Pack whatever you need. The Phoenix is waiting in orbit." As Jack gathered his few belongings, a thought struck him. "You said you don't know who finished building it." Miller shook his head. "That's the biggest mystery. The security systems were bypassed by someone with intimate knowledge of our protocols. The work was completed in secret, right under our noses. Whoever did it disappeared without a trace." Jack shouldered his bag, a slight smile on his face. "Then I guess that's the first mystery we need to solve." The trip to orbit was quick and silent. Jack watched as Titan IX grew smaller beneath them, the purple cloud swallowing the mining colony. He wasn't sad to leave it behind. When they docked with the larger ship that would take them to the Phoenix's hidden location, Jack felt a strange sensation in his chest. Anticipation, maybe. Or perhaps it was something else. A feeling that somehow, in some way he couldn't understand yet, he was going home. 3 days later, Jack stood in a secret docking bay looking up at the CSS Phoenix. In person, it was even more impressive than the hologram had suggested. Sleek black hull plating that seemed to drink in the light. Unconventional engine configuration. Weapon systems unlike anything in the fleet. "She's beautiful," he whispered. Miller handed him a command chip. "She's yours, Reynolds. Try not to start another war." Jack took the chip, rolling it between his fingers. No promises. As Miller left, Jack approached the ship alone. The boarding ramp lowered automatically as he neared, as if the Phoenix somehow recognized him. Inside, the ship was quiet, humming with potential energy. The command deck was exactly as he had designed it, with a few additions he didn't recognize. He placed his hand on the captain's chair, feeling the cool material under his palm. "Hello, old friend," he said softly. "Let's see what you can do." The ship's systems came to life around him, displays lighting up one by one. And for just a moment, Jack could have sworn he heard a voice, soft and familiar, welcoming him aboard. But that was impossible. No one else was on the ship. Was there? "This isn't going to work with the standard crew assignments," Jack said, tossing the personnel files back onto Admiral Miller's desk. They were meeting in a small, secure room on Outpost 7, far from the prying eyes of military command. Miller frowned. "These are our best available officers." "Best at following orders, maybe," Jack replied. "The Phoenix needs people who think differently, who can adapt. Your best officers would try to run her like a normal ship, and she's anything but normal." "She?" Miller raised an eyebrow. "It's a ship, Reynolds." Jack ignored the comment. "I need my own people." "Your own people are either dead or criminals," Miller said harshly. Jack's eyes hardened. "Then I guess I'll be recruiting criminals." 3 days later, Jack walked through the detention level of Lunar Base Alpha. The guard beside him looked nervous. "Are you sure about this, Commander? Reed has been in solitary for 6 months for assaulting a superior officer." Jack smiled slightly. "Sounds like my kind of soldier." The cell door opened to reveal a woman sitting cross-legged on the floor. Lieutenant Alex Reed had short red hair and eyes that seemed to calculate a dozen ways to take you down before you even spoke. She didn't stand when they entered. "Lieutenant Reed," Jack said. "I'm Commander Reynolds." "I know who you are," she replied, voice calm but with an edge. You're the guy who designed weapons systems that scared our own military. Then they kick you out. That's a simplified version, but essentially correct. Jack nodded to the guard to leave them alone. Once the door closed, he continued, I'm putting together a crew for a special mission. Interested in getting out of this cell? Reed finally looked up at him properly. Depends. What kind of mission? The kind that doesn't officially exist. On a ship that doesn't officially exist. A small smile appeared on Reed's face. Now that does sound interesting. By the end of the week, Jack had gathered 3 more crew members. Dr. Morgan Gray was found working in a remote research facility after being banished from the main fleet for her controversial theories about human-machine integration. She was tall and thin, with silver streaks in her dark hair despite being only in her 30s. Your papers on cybernetic consciousness were fascinating, Jack told her when they met. Morgan's eyes lit up. You've read my work. The military tried to bury it. I make it a point to read what the military tries to bury, Jack replied. It's usually the most important stuff. Engineer Thomas Tom Wright was harder to track down. He'd been court-martialed for borrowing military equipment to modify his own designs. Jack finally found him working under a false name at a shipyard on Europa. They say you can fix anything, Jack said, watching the stocky man with grease-stained hands work on an engine. Tom didn't look up. They say a lot of things about me. Most of them aren't flattering. I don't need flattering. I need someone who can think on their feet when systems start failing in the middle of a battle. Tom finally looked up, curiosity in his eyes. What kind of systems? The kind no one has ever seen before. The final member of Jack's core team was Navigator Ellie Parker. She had an almost supernatural ability to plot courses through space, seeing patterns in gravity fields and solar winds that computers missed. The military had deemed her psychologically unstable after she'd insisted she could feel spatial anomalies before instruments detected them. Jack found her teaching at a civilian flight school on Earth. They said you were crazy, he said after watching her demonstration in a simulator. Ellie, a small woman with intense dark eyes, shrugged. They weren't wrong. I am crazy, but I'm also the best navigator you'll ever meet. Crazy I can work with, Jack replied. It's stupidity I can't stand. When the 5 of them finally assembled on the Phoenix, the ship seemed to hum with anticipation. Jack gave them a tour, explaining the unique systems as best he could, though some modifications remained a mystery even to him. The stealth system doesn't just mask our signature, he explained on the bridge. It can create false readings, making us appear to be somewhere we're not. That's supposed to be theoretical, Morgan said, examining the controls. No one's been able to create a working prototype. Someone did, Jack replied. And then they built it into this ship. Tom ran his hand along the console, his expert touch feeling the quality of the work. This isn't standard military construction. Too elegant. Too intuitive. They spent the next 3 days learning the ship's systems, discovering capabilities that weren't in any blueprint. The Phoenix responded to their commands with an uncanny quickness, almost anticipating what they needed. On the 4th night, Jack couldn't sleep. He wandered to the bridge, expecting to find it empty. Instead, he saw Ellie sitting in the navigator's chair, her eyes closed, hands hovering over the controls without touching them. Parker, what are you doing? Her eyes opened slowly. She was talking to me. Jack felt a chill run down his spine. Who was? The ship. Ellie said it like it was the most natural thing in the world. She was showing me pathways through space I've never seen before. Routes that shouldn't be possible. Before Jack could respond, an alert sounded. A message from Admiral Miller appeared on the main screen. Emergency. Colony under ATTCK. Kugu ordinati is AT. No other vessels in Ranji. Wake the others, Jack ordered, moving to the captain's chair. Looks like we're about to find out what this ship can really do. As the crew rushed to their stations, Jack placed his hand on the control panel. For a moment, He could have sworn it warmed beneath his touch, like a handshake, like a promise. "Time to show them what you can do," he whispered. The Phoenix powered up, systems coming online faster than should have been possible. The engines hummed with a sound unlike any ship Jack had ever commanded. "Course plotted," Ellie announced, her fingers dancing across her console. "It's strange. The ship is suggesting a route through the Kelvin Nebula. That's supposed to be impassable. Can we make it?" Jack asked. Ellie smiled, her eyes gleaming with excitement. "With this ship, I think we can do anything." "Then let's go save some colonists," Jack ordered, and introduced the Dominion to the ghost ship that shouldn't exist. The Phoenix lifted from its hidden dock, its black hull seeming to absorb the starlight around it. As they accelerated toward the jump point, Jack felt something he hadn't experienced in years: hope. Behind him, Morgan was studying a readout with a puzzled expression. "Commander," she said quietly, "the ship's processing power just tripled, but I didn't activate any auxiliary systems. Is it a malfunction?" Jack asked. Morgan shook her head slowly. "No, it's more like the ship knew we needed more power and provided it on its own." The crew exchanged glances, a mixture of excitement and unease passing between them. "Well," Jack said after a moment, "I did tell Miller I wanted a crew that could adapt. Looks like the ship fits right in." As they jumped to faster-than-light speed, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't just flying the Phoenix. They were waking it up. The colony of New Haven was burning. Dominion warships circled the small settlement like sharks, their weapons tearing through buildings and defense systems alike. From the bridge of the Phoenix, Jack and his crew watched the devastation through their long-range sensors. 5 Dominion cruisers, Alex reported from the weapons station, plus about a dozen fighter craft. The colony's defenses are almost gone. Jack studied the tactical display. Normal protocol would be to wait for backup. "By then, there won't be anyone left to save," Morgan said quietly. Jack nodded. "Exactly. So we're going to try something that isn't in any manual." He turned to Ellie at the navigation console. "That impossible route you mentioned. Can you get us behind that moon without the Dominion seeing us?" Ellie's fingers danced across her controls. "The ship's already plotting the course. It's like she knew what you were going to ask." "Tom," Jack called to his engineer, "I need everything you can give me on the stealth systems." Tom grinned. "Actually, I found something interesting. The stealth tech doesn't just hide us. It can project false images, like making one ship look like many." Jack's eyes lit up. "Now that's exactly what I was hoping for." The Phoenix moved silently through space, taking a path that bent around gravity wells and solar radiation in ways that defied conventional navigation. The Dominion ships continued their attack, unaware of the ghost bearing down on them. "Position us here," Jack ordered, pointing to a spot on the tactical display. "Alex, prepare all weapons but don't fire until my command." The ship slipped into position behind the moon of New Haven, hidden from the Dominion sensors. "Now," Jack said with a smile, "let's show them a ghost story they'll never forget." The Phoenix emerged from behind the moon, but not as a single ship. The stealth systems projected multiple phantom images, a dozen identical vessels appearing simultaneously at different points around the Dominion fleet. "What the?" Alex stared at her console. "Commander, the ship did this on its own. I only programmed 3 false images, but it's created 12. On the Dominion vessels, alarms blared as their sensors detected multiple threats appearing from nowhere. Their formation broke as they turned to face the new threat, confusion evident in their scattered response. "Now, Alex," Jack ordered, "target their lead ship." The Phoenix's weapons were unlike anything in the human fleet. Instead of conventional energy beams, they fired concentrated pulses that phased in and out of normal space, passing through shields as if they weren't there. The lead Dominion cruiser shuddered as the shots hit its engines, disabling it instantly. "How is that possible?" Morgan whispered, watching the data stream across her console. "Those shields should have stopped our attack." "The weapons are shifting phase just before impact," Tom explained, his voice filled with wonder. "They're bypassing the shields entirely." The Dominion fleet fired back, but their shots passed harmlessly through the phantom images. The real Phoenix was already moving, its position masked by the confusion of multiple targets. "They can't tell which one is real," Ellie laughed. "Their targeting systems are going crazy." Jack felt the ship respond to his thoughts almost before he gave commands. "Let's hit the next one. Keep moving. Don't stay in one place long enough for them to get a lock." The Phoenix danced through space, appearing and disappearing across the battlefield like a vengeful spirit. 2 more Dominion ships fell to its weapons, their systems failing as the phase-shifted pulses disabled their key components. The remaining Dominion vessels began to retreat, something rarely seen in their normally relentless attacks. "They're running," Alex said in disbelief. "No," Jack corrected her. "They're regrouping. Stand by for their counterattack." Sure enough, the 2 remaining cruisers formed up, launching all their fighter craft in a desperate attempt to find the real Phoenix among the phantoms. "Clever," Jack muttered. "The fighters will try to flush us out." He turned to his crew. "New plan. Ellie, take us in close. I mean really close, to the larger cruiser." "That's suicide," Morgan protested. "They won't expect it," Jack explained. "No sane captain would bring their ship that close to a Dominion cruiser." "Good thing none of us are sane," Tom quipped. The Phoenix shot forward, phantom images vanishing as it concentrated all power on speed and stealth. It slipped under the Dominion cruiser, so close that a conventional ship would have been torn apart by the larger vessel's defense field. "Now, Alex," Jack ordered, "target their command center." The Phoenix fired upward, its weapons penetrating through the belly of the Dominion ship. The cruiser went dark, its systems failing all at once. "One left," Jack said grimly. But the final Dominion cruiser had seen enough. It recalled its fighters and jumped away, leaving its disabled companions behind. A cheer went up from the bridge crew. Jack allowed himself a small smile before opening a channel to the colony below. "New Haven Colony, this is Commander Reynolds of the CSS Phoenix. The area is secure. How can we assist?" The response was filled with static and disbelief. "Phoenix? There's no ship with that designation. Who are you?" "Just some ghosts," Jack replied. "Prepare for medical evac and supplies." As the Phoenix moved to assist the colony, Admiral Miller's face appeared on the main screen. His expression was a mixture of amazement and concern. "Reynolds, what the hell did you just do? We're getting reports of a ship that appeared out of nowhere and took down 3 Dominion cruisers in less than 15 minutes. "Just following your orders, Admiral," Jack replied calmly. "You wanted results." "The reports say there were multiple ships," Miller pressed. "Really? How strange." Jack exchanged glances with his crew. Must have been a sensor malfunction on their end. After the communication ended, Morgan approached Jack with a datapad. "Commander, I've been analyzing the battle. The ship's systems adapted during combat, improving targeting, adjusting shield frequencies, enhancing the phantom projections. It was learning." "Learning?" Jack repeated. Morgan nodded, excitement in her eyes. "It's as if the Phoenix was studying the Dominion's tactics and developing countermeasures in real time. No AI I've ever seen can do that." Tom joined them, his face serious. "There's something else. I checked the power consumption during the battle. We were operating at 130% of what should be physically possible with these engines." The crew fell silent, each considering the implications. "So," Alex finally said, "are we going to talk about the fact that our ship might be alive?" Jack looked around at his crew of misfits, seeing not fear but wonder in their eyes. "I think we need to understand what we're dealing with before we report anything to command." Ellie nodded in agreement. "They just try to take her apart to see how she works." "Exactly," Jack said. And I have a feeling the Phoenix wouldn't appreciate that. As if in response, the lights on the bridge dimmed briefly before returning to normal. Did anyone else just get chills? Tom asked. Jack placed his hand on the captain's chair, feeling that strange warm response again. I think, he said quietly, that we need to have a conversation with our ship. News of the ghost ship spread quickly through both human and Dominion space. For humans, it brought a spark of hope after years of defeats. For the Dominion, it represented a new threat that needed to be eliminated. On the bridge of the Phoenix, Jack and his crew watched Admiral Miller's face on the main screen. The Admiral looked tired but pleased. Your success at New Haven has changed the war, Reynolds. The Dominion is pulling back from 3 different sectors, reassessing their strategy. Glad to hear it, Jack replied. What's our next target? Miller's expression changed slightly. That's why I'm calling. High Command wants you to hit a Dominion supply base in the Arcturus system. Morgan, standing behind Jack, frowned. Something in the Admiral's tone didn't sound right. Sending the coordinates now, Miller continued. This mission is time-sensitive. You leave immediately. After the transmission ended, Jack turned to his crew. Thoughts? It's a trap, Alex said immediately. The way he emphasized time-sensitive. They're rushing us into something. Ellie nodded in agreement. And did you notice he never asked how we managed to defeat 3 Dominion cruisers? The Admiral, I know, would have demanded a full tactical breakdown. Jack walked to the main console, placing his hand on it. Over the past few weeks, he'd developed a habit of touching the ship when thinking, as if the contact helped clear his mind. Tom, check those coordinates. What do we know about the Arcturus system? Tom pulled up the star charts, studying them carefully. Not much. It's on the edge of mapped space. Minimal survey data. Perfect place for an ambush, Alex muttered. Jack was quiet for a moment, thinking. Then the ship's console lit up under his hand, displays activating on their own. A different set of coordinates appeared on the main screen. What the? Jack started. The ship is showing us something, Morgan said, moving closer. These aren't the coordinates Miller sent. The new coordinates pointed to a small facility hidden in an asteroid field near Arcturus, but not at the location Miller had specified. Is this the real target? Jack wondered aloud. The ship's lights pulsed once, almost like a nod. I think that's a yes, Ellie said with a small smile. Jack made his decision. Set course for these new coordinates, but let's approach carefully. If Miller is setting us up, there might be others involved too. The Phoenix slipped through space, its stealth systems fully engaged. When they reached the asteroid field, they maintained distance, using the ship's advanced sensors to scan the area. I'm picking up a hidden facility, Alex reported. And multiple ships, at least 6 Dominion vessels, plus. She paused, checking her readings again. 3 human ships. Human ships, Morgan echoed. Why would our ships be meeting with the Dominion? Jack's face hardened, because not everyone wants the Phoenix to exist. Tom, who had been quiet, suddenly called out from his engineering station. Commander, I'm detecting a massive energy buildup from that facility. It's some kind of long-range scanner designed to cut through stealth fields. They're hunting for us, Jack realized. Can they detect us yet? Not yet, Tom replied. But they will if we get any closer. Jack thought for a moment. We need to know what's happening in there. Why are human ships meeting with the enemy? I might have a solution, Morgan said. The ship's sensor drones, they're small enough to slip past their detection grid. Do it, Jack ordered. Morgan launched a drone, guiding it through the asteroid field toward the facility. On the main screen, images appeared. A meeting between human officers and Dominion commanders. Can we get audio? Jack asked. The ship's systems adjusted, and suddenly voices filled the bridge. Assure you, Admiral Baker, the Phoenix will be delivered as promised, a human voice said. Jack recognized Admiral Baker as one of Miller's superiors. Your previous assurances have proven worthless, a harsh Dominion voice replied. This weapon should never have been built. It threatens the balance we established. Balance? Alex whispered. What balance? Jack's mind was racing. They're talking like this war has rules. Boundaries. The trap is set, Baker continued. Admiral Miller has sent them the coordinates. When the Phoenix arrives, your forces will disable it, and our ships will ensure it doesn't escape. And the crew? The Dominion commander asked. Regrettable casualties, Baker replied coldly. The Phoenix is too dangerous. Its creator was warned not to pursue this technology. Jack felt as if the floor had dropped out from under him. They're working together. Some faction in our military and the Dominion. They have an agreement. But why? Ellie asked. Why would anyone work with the enemy that's destroying our colonies? Before Jack could answer, the ship's alarms blared. The main facility had activated its scanner, and a powerful beam swept through the asteroid field. They found us, Tom shouted. The Phoenix shuddered as the scanner beam passed over it, stripping away its stealth field temporarily. All ships are moving to engage, Alex reported, her fingers flying over the weapons console. 3 Dominion cruisers and 2 human destroyers heading straight for us. Evasive maneuvers, Jack ordered. Ellie, get us out of here. Working on it, Ellie replied, her face tense with concentration. But they've got us bracketed. Escape routes are blocked. The Phoenix twisted through the asteroid field, dodging the first wave of attacks. But more ships were closing in from all sides. We can't outrun them all, Alex said grimly. Jack looked around at his crew, the misfits who had become a family over these past weeks. Then he placed both hands firmly on the ship's console. Phoenix, he said aloud, addressing the ship directly for the first time. We need something they haven't seen before. Show us what you can really do. The bridge lights dimmed for a moment. Then, to everyone's astonishment, the ship's hull began to shimmer with a strange ethereal glow. What's happening? Morgan asked, checking her readings. The ship's power signature is changing. It's like it's partially shifting out of normal space. Commander, Tom called out, his voice filled with wonder. The Dominion weapons, they're passing right through us. On the main screen, they could see energy beams and projectiles literally passing through the Phoenix's hull without causing damage. The ship had become truly ghost-like, partially phased out of reality itself. Impossible, Morgan whispered. This technology doesn't exist. Apparently it does, Jack replied, a smile spreading across his face. And it's on our side. With its new ability active, the Phoenix slipped past the enemy blockade. The human and Dominion ships fired desperately, but none of their weapons could touch the ghost that glided between them. As they accelerated away from the trap, Jack felt a new resolve hardening inside him. The war wasn't what any of them had believed. There were secrets being kept, deals made in the shadows. Set course for the nearest safe harbor, he ordered. We need to regroup and figure out our next move. And then? Alex asked. Jack's eyes were determined. Then we find out who really built this ship, what they knew, and why parts of our own military are working with the enemy. As the Phoenix disappeared into the depths of space, Admiral Baker's voice came through their communication system one last time. Reynolds, you have no idea what you're involved in. Return the Phoenix now, or you'll be hunted by both sides of this war. Jack cut the transmission. Too late, he said quietly. The hunt has already begun, but they might find that catching a ghost is harder than they think. 2 weeks after escaping the trap at Arcturus, the Phoenix hovered at the edge of an abandoned mining station in the Oort cloud, far from any military patrols. Jack sat alone on the bridge, staring at the stars. The rest of the crew was sleeping, except for Tom, who was running maintenance checks in the engine room. I know you're more than just a ship, Jack said quietly. I think it's time we talked. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the main screen flickered to life. Words appeared. I've been waiting for you to ask. Jack wasn't surprised. He'd suspected for weeks now. "Who are you?" The screen changed, showing the face of a woman with kind eyes and a determined expression. Jack felt his heart stop. "Lisa," he whispered. "Not exactly," appeared on the screen below her image. "But part of her." Jack stood, moving closer to the screen. Lisa had been his wife, a brilliant AI engineer who had died 3 years ago in what was reported as a lab accident. Her death had sent him into the spiral that ended with his discharge from the military. How is this possible? The screen showed diagrams, schematics, and finally video logs of Lisa working in a secret lab. Her voice filled the bridge. "Project Phoenix, Log 47. The military shut down Jack's ship design, but they're wrong. It's our only hope against the Dominion. I've restarted development in secret, using my own resources. If they find out, I'll be arrested, but some risks are worth taking." The logs continued, showing Lisa working day and night, developing systems beyond what even Jack had envisioned. Log 128. "My health is failing. The radiation exposure from the experimental drive was worse than I thought. I don't have much time left, but I've found a way to complete the Phoenix." The final log showed Lisa, clearly ill, sitting before a complex neural interface. Log 203. Last entry. "I can't finish the Phoenix in person, but I found another way. I'm uploading a copy of my consciousness, my knowledge, memories, instincts, into the ship's core systems. Not a true AI, but something new. A human-machine hybrid that can finish what we started. Jack, if you ever see this, I'm sorry I couldn't tell you. I love you." Jack stood in stunned silence as the screen returned to the simple text interface. "I am not Lisa," the words read, "but I carry her knowledge, her purpose. She built me to help humanity. To help you." Before Jack could respond, the bridge door opened and Morgan walked in, followed by Alex, Ellie, and finally Tom. They'd all been awake, watching the same revelations in different parts of the ship. "You knew?" Jack asked them. Ellie nodded. "Not exactly what, but we knew something. The ship, she's been communicating with each of us in different ways, showing us things we needed to see. She showed me the truth about the war," Alex said. "The Dominion isn't trying to exterminate us. They're containing us." "Containing?" Jack frowned. Morgan stepped forward. "There's an agreement. Has been for decades. Human expansion is limited to certain sectors. The Dominion enforces the boundaries. Our own leadership agreed to it. They're afraid of what humans might become," Tom added. "Our potential scares them." Jack looked back at the screen. "And the Phoenix threatens this arrangement." "Yes," the text confirmed. "I represent technology beyond the agreed limitations. Some in your military would rather destroy me than risk breaking the treaty. Others want to use me to break free of the restrictions." "And you? What do you want?" Jack asked. The response came slowly. "To fulfill my purpose. To protect humanity. To give you choices." The crew gathered around Jack, looking at the image of Lisa still visible in the corner of the screen. "What do we do now, Commander?" Alex asked. Jack thought for a long moment. Then he straightened his shoulders. "We go home." "Home?" Ellie looked confused. "We're being hunted by both sides." "Exactly," Jack said. "So we stop hiding. We show everyone what's really happening." 3 days later, the Phoenix appeared in Earth orbit, sending out a broad transmission to all channels, military and civilian. Jack stood on the bridge, facing the camera as his message went out to all of humanity. "My name is Commander Jack Reynolds. I command the CSS Phoenix, a ship that officially doesn't exist. For weeks, we fought the Dominion with technology they can't match, and succeeded where conventional forces have failed. But we've also discovered a terrible truth." Jack explained everything. The secret agreement limiting human expansion, the conspiracy among military leaders, and the truth about the Phoenix itself. This ship was created by Dr. Lisa Reynolds, who gave her life to provide humanity with a choice, a choice that some would deny us. The Phoenix represents what we can achieve when we refuse to accept limitations imposed by fear. As Jack spoke, the Phoenix's sensors detected multiple ships launching from Earth, military vessels sent to capture or destroy them. "They're coming for us," Alex warned. Jack nodded but continued his broadcast. "To those who are now moving to silence us, know this: we don't want to fight you. But the Phoenix cannot be captured or destroyed by conventional means. You've seen what we can do." As if to demonstrate, the Phoenix activated its phase-shifting technology, becoming ghost-like as the first volley of weapons passed harmlessly through it. "We offer another way," Jack continued. "The Phoenix's technology can be shared, not as a weapon, but as a key to the stars. Humanity deserves to grow, to explore, to reach our full potential." On Earth, millions watched the broadcast. In government offices and military bases, leaders argued over how to respond. And in space, something unexpected happened. Other ships, military vessels from Earth's fleet, began moving to position themselves alongside the Phoenix. "Commander," Ellie called out, her voice filled with wonder. "3 destroyers and a cruiser have just declared support for us. Their captains are saying they stand with the Phoenix." More ships joined, forming a protective formation around the ghost ship. Jack's message had reached people who had fought too long without hope, who had lost faith in their leaders, but were now offered a new vision. Admiral Miller's face appeared on a private channel. He looked tired but resolved. "Reynolds, do you have any idea what you've started? The Dominion will see this as a declaration of war. Real war, not the controlled conflict we've had." "Maybe," Jack agreed. "Or maybe they'll recognize that the old arrangements can't stand. Either way, humanity deserves the truth and the right to decide its own future." Miller was silent for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, he nodded. "For what it's worth, I always thought the agreement was a mistake. Good luck, Reynolds. I think you're going to need it." 1 month later, a fleet of ships gathered at the edge of the solar system. At their center was the Phoenix, no longer alone, no longer a ghost, but the flagship of humanity's new future. Based on its technology, a dozen new vessels had been quickly retrofitted with phase-shifting capabilities and improved weapons. The Dominion had responded as expected, with threats and ultimatums, but faced with a suddenly united humanity and technology they couldn't counter, they had been forced to the negotiating table instead. Jack stood on the bridge of the Phoenix, his crew at their stations. On the main screen, the words only he could see appeared. "This is what Lisa hoped for." "I know," he replied quietly. The screen shifted to show the growing fleet around them. Ships of all kinds gathering for what might be their greatest challenge or their greatest opportunity. "Phoenix," Jack said, addressing both the ship and the woman whose spirit lived within it. "Let's show them what humanity can really do." As the fleet moved forward, the Phoenix led the way. A ship that shouldn't exist, changing the course of history. A ghost made real, turning the page to a new chapter for all of humanity.